then let's roll into it. First thing on the agenda are the minutes from last month's meeting. Anybody want to make a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, then we can roll into the draft ballot language, and I will turn it over to you, Chase.
Thanks, Lisa. Good afternoon officially. We're on to the next point in our FMP 2.0 planning, which is this draft ballot language. I'm going to turn it over to Les to walk through that. But as a reminder, we do have our first FMP 2.0 engagement session right after this tonight, Lisa. And so if we can wrap up by about 4:45 or 10 till, that'd be really good for us. But we know that that's ongoing, but we also need to get this draft language in front of the board here in July or beginning of August. And so we wanted to bring it to you now, walk through it, see if there's anything that you all would suggest as changes before I bring it to the full board, and also let Les give a little background about this part of the process. So Leslie, turn it over to you.
Okay. This is more a recap of what we talked about in December and January, just to refresh your memory. But what was provided was the ballot proposition that would include the language for both the revenue purpose statement and the PEPAL extension, as well as the Pearl. And Beth Grove provided that just so that we had all three of them together to look at. It meets the statutory requirements. The revenue purpose statement is almost a mirror of what we currently have in place that provides the flexibility to use the SAVE funding as we want to use that. So that's kind of a quick overview of that. If you're just to put some numbers to that, the revenue purpose statement and the SAVE provides us about $14 million a year of funding. The PEPAL levy is about 12.5 million of funding each year, and about 10 of that is the voter approved portion, and the rest is the voter approved, or excuse me, the board approved is the difference. And then the Pearl, which is probably maybe the most challenging to us to think about, is an additional levy on our taxpayers of 13.5 cents per thousand of taxable valuation. It would be a new levy for Iowa City. There are only 27 of those in the state that have it. But if you recall, I think Matt shared this in one of the board meetings, is that the legislature had language that would do away with Pearl that did not get voted in, but I would not be surprised to see that come up in the next election. And so we wouldn't even have that potential funding source. And, from a policy perspective, it may look a little awkward to put something on the ballot to ask the voters to approve, which could get voted out by law within the next session. We don't know that for sure, but it might look kind of awkward to us and that type of thing. What are the key points for the ballot questions? We can only present ballots to voters on the stated election dates, and we walk through those dates at a previous presentation. Our next available ballot date is November 2nd of 2021, and then March and September of 2022 would be the next available dates. But there are some restrictions that if a vote doesn't pass, you have to wait 6 months to represent it to the voters. So that would throw out the March date right away. So we're really looking at March and September as our options, unless we split them off and do them separately. And then you could do each one independently if you wanted to, or you could split off Pearl until next spring if you got more information as to what the legislature might be doing. Before those items go to the county auditor to be put on the ballot, the board needs to approve a resolution. And Beth Grove has provided that resolution to us. I don't think we got that in the minutes or in the agenda, but we can certainly do that. And it just asks the board to approve those. But depending upon what the board wants to do with Pearl, it will change the resolution. If you want to include Pearl in November or exclude it, Beth would just need to pull that out of the resolution. So she just made it all encompassing at this point in time. This has to go to the county auditor by noon on September 17th. So we do have time, but again, we're not going to take all of that time. Given Matt ample time to provide you with the recommendation to approve the resolution and then get it on to hopefully the second board meeting in July, or the first one in August, whichever one we get worked through. Again, Beth will help us with the final language on that resolution as soon as the board provides the direction as to when they want those votes to happen. And just as a reminder, throughout this process, as we start the community engagement, if people get to that point, the board is only allowed to present the ballot question and the district facts, not allowed to advocate for yes votes. So just a friendly reminder as to what board responsibilities or actions can be taken there. So open it up for their questions.
Les, just to clarify and reiterate, so the document that's in the ops committee, that is the actual language that we would put before the voters, right? 'Cause
Yes.
So the resolution, we can get back to the committee or to the board, but this is what you had to review tonight is the actual verbiage that would be in front of the voters.
Right.
Okay.
Correct, Jace.
So Lisa, I have a couple of questions. Maybe I could ask them of Les at this time. So Les, what's the revenue from the Pearl levy?
The current 13.5 cents as it's allowed by law would be about 900,000 per year, 925,000 per year using the existing tax base. Assuming our tax base goes up, by the time this would be implemented, it'd be a little bit more than that, but that would be current
And that's-
projection.
And this voter approval would be for 10 years, is that right? Or not, or is it
The act-
indefinite?
The sorry there, I just lost a quick connection there. The Pearl levy is unique in that it stays in place for perpetuity until it's actually voted out.
Okay,
So,
okay,
um,
okay. And do districts set the amount of the Pearl and Pepple levy every year, depending upon what their needs are, up to the cap of the maximum amount of the levy? Or is the levy constant? yearly?
you would ask the voters to approve that rate and it would stay in place for the length of the time. So for the Pepple levy, it would be the $1.34 for the 10 years. And the Pearl would be the 13.5 cents. Now, I suppose that a district could levy less than those amounts if they so chose. But I think that would be a really unusual situation that you would have, that you would levy less than that. So I'm not
Okay.
aware of anybody that's done it, Charlie. Let's put it that way.
Okay, but it's an available measure the district could take in the future
Right.
if it's appropriate. Okay. All right. Okay. Thanks, Lisa.
The language itself is it just seems, it's so kind of convoluted, and I think this is just kind of typical traditional RPS stuff. I mean, I feel like we could make it so much more simple, but I feel like it's also following kind of a prescribed, presentation. But I just did have a couple of clarifying questions, Les. This is not to be used for land purchases, is that right?
I would
There
have
was
to go
some
back
stuff
and
around the student construction, and then there was something about to purchase and improve grounds. I just didn't know if we were saying we could purchase land with this or not. I just didn't understand that.
we have purchased land with the existing save and the revenue purpose statement, so there wouldn't be any change, but I could make sure and verify that with Beth in the final language. But I think that purchase of grounds does include mean land.
Okay, I just wasn't sure. I mean, it was so clear purchasing land for student builds, but then the language is funny. And then I thought, just another random comment, the purchase of libraries seemed oddly specific. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, anyway, I just didn't know if this was sort of legally code-wise things we had to represent that way.
I think that's exactly right, Jen. And I think some of this is probably taken exactly from the code in terms of what it can be used for. But we have used these dollars to purchase land in the past. It's what we use to purchase the land where we built Liberty. And so it's right in line with how, and probably out at Hoover too, although I wasn't as involved in that one, with where those funds came from in past years.
I mean, I feel like it would almost be helpful to have a cheat sheet of what this money could not be used for. It would be in some ways more helpful than looking at the language of the actual statement, because it's sort of hard to interpret some of these things, right? And so, I mean, for me as a board member, I'm not supposed to be out there saying vote yes, but my goal is to be able to educate community members if they ask the question. And I think, it might be easier to say what it's not used for or what it cannot be used for.
Essentially, Janet, I think I can answer that kind of at a high level is cannot be used for instructional costs. So we can't buy teachers, administrators, or other staff from it, except for those that are related to the community ed or family resource centers. We can use it for staff for those areas. And it mirrors the PEPAL limitations in terms of you can't buy equipment or items less than $500.
Okay.
So from an equipment perspective, there's that $500 threshold. Now, there's not many pieces of equipment that are less than $500. I mean, maybe a small snow blower that you might use for the sidewalks an example of a couple $100. So.
But Janet, to your point, Matt and I had this conversation, and Matt, sorry to steal your thunder, kind of one of the ideas we need to talk about as we get closer to November is not necessarily go vote yes or vote no, but if we don't pass these, here are some of the things that we'll no longer be able to do. Kind of like the same or the different take of that same point you're making, right? Of what can be purchased, but if we don't pass these, here's what's going to stop happening.
Yeah.
And so I think that's on our radar. Matt's put that on my radar in terms of something we need to look at creating of, okay, what goes away? Heaven forbid this doesn't pass. What goes away if that happens? And so we're already starting to try to look at some of that.
Cool. Thanks, Chase. Thanks, Les.
And I do think it's weirdly specific, like you said, Jan. I think part of the intent is to cast the widest net possible so that any of those things like student construction or library that would be questionable are intentionally included. But then it is a little, and we'll do one more check with Beth on this. It does seem like it almost admits that then the obvious at some point about, okay, well, like, could you buy land, right? I mean, something that would seem pretty obvious that we'd want to use the funds for. So, well, we can double check and take another pass, like Les said, but I think that's the intent of it. And I covered that already in some of your conversation there, but cast the widest net possible so that those funds are available.
And the library piece, Janet, may be that it allows us to equip the library with books, book collection when we open a new school, because those wouldn't necessarily fall under equipment categories. So it's not like we're going out and purchasing the Coralville Public Library, but allows us to purchase the library collection to have those manuals and those books in there. So I think that's probably more what it really references and allows us to do than to purchase an existing structure, so to speak.
That's helpful.
So my understanding, what you need from us and then eventually the larger board is a decision on, right now, this language is for all four. And we need to decide if we want to group all four together or pull out Pearl and maybe push the Pearl vote down the road a little bit while we wait to see what the legislature does.
It's actually only three, Lisa. It's a PEPAL voter approved extension, the RPS within SAVE, and Pearl.
I thought we had four for some. Maybe I'm thinking of the bond and then the bonds.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So great. So then it's just the three. That's even easier. And then we need to decide if we want to take the Pearl out and deal with it later or keep it in. And then when I read through this, it did look like a bunch of lawyer gobbledygook, but I know not to mess with that because it's all important. So the language itself seemed fine to me. That's the big picture discussion the board needs to have. Is there something else that we need to decide, or is that it?
I mean, I think that's what, go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's it. And just because I'm annoyed by this, I think find what covers the land in there. I think it's in the proposition part that talks about for the purpose of purchasing and improving grounds. I think that's maybe what covers it. with the land, because it seems like that should be explicitly in there. And I think that was the part when I read through it the first time that caught me, because I had the same take about the student construction part being pulled out, but then why wasn't the land in there? So anyways, Lisa, I think you're right. It's about, can we move this language forward for the RPS and for the PEPL for the fall, and then probably delaying the Pearl conversation. Like Left's reference I shared with you guys before, I just don't think it's smart for us to bring a levy forward that is going to be up for debate right away in the fall in the legislature about if it's going to be continued or not. I don't know how soon that conversation will die down. You know, you could pass it and then it can be taken away. And I think you'd have a difficult conversation with the public about why you ask us to pass this if they're going to take it away right away. So, but there could be some compelling reasons you look at it differently too. But I just think that one's a more difficult one for us to get around for the limited funds it might bring in right now and muddy the water where we don't need to.
So at $1 million a year, does that inhibit in very much or at all in what is in the FMP 2.0 now?
So Charlie, you read my mind, because that's what I was going to say is Dwayne's worked on it and we've looked at it. And obviously, as we've kind of looked at drafts, no, we don't believe that it substantially impacts the work that we envision undertaking. Now, $1 million a year is $1 million a year. And so obviously it means we're going to have to reprioritize some things. But no, we don't see it as, well, if we don't have this, we're not going to move forward with FMP 2.0. It's
Or any part of the 2.0?
It might shift some timing, but
Okay.
no, it's not going to, nothing's going to fall off. Well, shouldn't say that because we don't know exactly right what all is going to be in it at this point, but we don't see it as such a big piece that we believe it needs to be in there, even if it was going to go away. If we thought that, I think we'd be advocating for something different than Matt just shared.
Okay.
Yeah, just to put some kind of numbers in front of you, I'd have to go back to the specifics, but if I recall correctly, Dwayne's numbers he had were 200 and some $million, and the SAVE revenue bonds and PEPL loan notes that we could purchase would fund all but about $18 million of that plan. Pearl would then close that gap to about 8 million with the $1 million per year estimate. But all of those estimates for the SAVE and the PEPL are based upon very conservative numbers. And so we may actually have enough in those funds by the time we get to 10 or 12 years from now, when we would be finishing a plan, that we could actually have more borrowing capacity and close that gap to virtually zero. So either that or we make budget adjustments to our plan. I mean, or at that point in time, we look at a general obligation bond. So there'll be some options down the road.
I see.
I mean, I don't know, y'all. I mean, it sounds like the recommendation is to drop Pearl. I'm just trying to think. I mean, that I guess if we went for it and it passed and then we had to revoke it. I mean, it's not really our fault if the state legislature decides to pull it out. I mean, we were trying to do the best that we could for our district and secure as many dollars as we could to advance our projects. I mean, I don't know that the sentiment would be super negative about the district. But I don't know, you know, if we put Pearl in and it was the straw that broke the camel's back and things didn't pass, I mean, that would be bad too. So I don't know. I don't know that I have a really strong opinion on it.
The other thing is thinking about how you message it too, Janet. You know, I agree with you. You know, I don't think we'd have to own a lot of responsibility for that. The other one would be the messaging is maybe a little cleaner in the fall, that we're just asking you to continue two things we already have. We're not asking for anything new. And
Yeah.
limited revenue from this other one, it's limited, but we are asking for a new levy there per se.
Yeah.
So that might be a little bit easier messaging task for us in the fall. Just say, we're just looking for an extension here, guys. We're not asking to put more on your shoulder.
Yeah, that's helpful. I think that's compelling.
Yeah, I think I was where Janet was, but I do like that point, Matt, about cleaning the messaging up. It does seem that if we don't do it this fall, we're likely never going to do it. That's kind of the sense I get. But at the same time, I think you're right that there is a strong, I mean, I thought that Pearl bill made it out of committee this past spring. Maybe it didn't make it that far, but it seemed like it did. The Pearl to exit made it pretty far.
Les might know the details on this one better than me, but I think it just got dropped at the end towards the final passage. I think it did make it out of committee and into language and just got dropped as they worked to find a compromise bill. So it was in there a long time. It almost made it to the end.
Mhm.
Charlie, I don't know if, hearing the part about cleaning up the messaging kind of helped me get off the fence and make a decision. I don't know where you're at though.
I think I see what you and Janet are getting at, and Matt's proposing too. And I maybe a little bit too financially flippant, but not having to rely upon that source for the essence of the FMP project helps me anyway. So, and I do agree that the messaging probably is better without it and without our including it. Other board members may have a different approach. I don't know. We'll see.
And
Well,
it also doesn't mean we're getting rid of it, right? We're just delaying it. I mean, if
Yeah.
these are
Yeah.
passed in November, 70, 80%, and it doesn't get,
And the
Resolved by the
legislature leaves it
legislature.
in. Yeah.
yeah, we can always go
Mm.
back next year and run it out there. So
Right. Right.
well, then I think that you've kind of got the, I think we're all on the same page for the ops committee recommendation. And we'll just see what the full board does with it.
So we will take, so do you want us to present just the two and let them ask where Pearl is, or tell them that we've reduced it to just the two? And that the recommendation for the committee is to delay Pearl, and we can kind of run through the different rationale?
I think we should present it as two and tell them
Okay,
took the Pearl out.
okay,
The legislature issue and the,
messaging.
just a cleaner ballot initiative then. But then also say, we can always put it back in if the full board thinks that the ops committee is on the wrong track on that, and then see what everybody else thinks.
So are you asking me to contact Beth and get it cleaned up with only the two for next Tuesday night's meeting?
Yes, please.
Okay. I don't know how quickly, I don't know her schedule, so it may not go out when Kim puts out the agenda on Thursday, but we will get it before next Monday. I'll let Beth know time is of the essence.
All right, anything else on draft ballot language? All right, let's go on to our annual operations report.
So just really a conversation tonight to get some feedback from the board. We'd originally had this slotted or slated to go to the full board at the end of June. And about a week beforehand, I told Matt, I was like, hey, we have this new ops committee and I completely forgot to run this report or this idea by ops committee before we do that. Can we delay this so we can have a conversation? And the report's still in draft form. I sent you all a link to last year's report so you can see the structure that we used last year. And really what we tried to do over the last 2 years on the ops side is to create a report that kind of mirrors in some way what Amy does on the academic side. So it just is a year after year cycle, right? So we can build upon that historical knowledge. I think the question for tonight, so if it comes up at the meeting at the end of July, is when is the best time for this ops report? Amy does hers in the fall, sometime between October and December. Just I think that's right, Matt, right? It kind of varies like in that window. When is it most helpful for the board to see this information from the ops side? I mean, it covers a lot of things from staffing, which the staffing season's in the spring, finances, which the financial year ends at the end of June, facilities, food service, transportation, that's all in there. And so just trying to get the pulse of the committee about maybe when you want that inserted into the calendar on an annual basis. Everything's kind of wacky coming out of COVID, but so we wanted to make sure we got this year in front of the board, and we're doing our best to actually include data not just from the 1920 school year, but because we're all the way at the end, actually data all the way through the 2021 school year, which in all honesty, if we leave it at the end of July, I believe that we could provide that data from the exact previous school year before we start the next school year. So it'd be right there. Whereas if we do it in the middle of the winter, that's always going to be data that's about 6 months in arrears, because we would always end it at the end of the previous fiscal year. We wouldn't give it to you from January to December. So that's one of the advantages. But I also know that the summer is not the best time necessarily to present large reports. Some people think, but I just, wanted the feedback from the board and to also give you a heads up that that is coming at the end of this month, so that we can, say we've had that conversation with this group.
Yeah, I prefer as close to the end of the fiscal year as possible. I mean, that's my take. If you're halfway through a school year, a fiscal year, and looking at the last year's data, I don't know if we'd ever use the data, Chase, to make any modifications in planning for the upcoming school year, but I don't know. That's just my take. I prefer to look at data as real time as possible.
Yeah, go ahead, Lisa, sorry.
I was just gonna say, I agree. I like the July so that we can catch all of our employee. I've noticed on the staffing items on consent that a lot of the resignations happen in June, or retirements, just because that's the close of the year. So I would think then if we could get it in July after that June 30th cutoff, not only would we get the close of the fiscal year that Janet brought up, but then we would get a more complete picture on our HR stuff.
Yeah, and I'm thinking too, the thing about Janet's indicating is that the timing of having this information presented to the board, to me, is much better if it's possible to use what's in the report in making immediate future decisions. So as I understand it, it sounds to me like that's in the July framework or somewhere in that area.
All right, good. So not a lot on that, just that piece, and we will, and I can share that with the board that, and I think Matt already has it slotted on the annual calendar, but we'll just continue to pencil it in that will be something that we do in July every year and try to capture that full last year of data. Lisa's right, we'll be able to tell you what our staffing numbers were for the entire year and where we ended the year on that piece as we look forward to the next school year. And then of course with transportation and nutrition, those will be good pieces as well too. So we will continue to move forward with that. We will have that uploaded to the board with the regular agenda that goes out the week before the second meeting. So it's not on for the 13th, it's on for the 27th. Okay, that's all I had on that piece. Thank you.
All right, that brings us to our last item, 4:30. So I think we're doing well. That's our next ops meeting. This meeting is being recorded, so I'm hesitant to say this, but I think Chase had a good idea. About moving our August ops meeting until the after the last community engagement session. And then at our August ops meeting, we can kind of do a dive of the data from the community engagement sessions. That last is August 5th, correct, Chase?
Yes, noon on August 5th.
So we'd be looking at maybe sometime the following week. And we have a regular board meeting on the 10th, correct?
Correct. But we'll have Kristen's a wizard with the Qualtrics data. And so we could present you stuff as early as that Thursday evening or the Monday before the board. I'm not sure how comfortable the board's going to be if we say that we can't show them the community feedback until that second meeting in August. And quite honestly, we probably can't wait that long in terms of how we want to go back out and do some more community engagement. So I don't know if there's a way to do it that Thursday evening or the next Monday evening. I know that is hard on you all to have like back-to-back meetings or 2 meetings in the evening that close together. So I apologize about that. But in all honesty, we'd be able to kind of look at the preliminary stuff, but I just don't think it's going to be as beneficial if we have a meeting before our third large evening community engagement session as if we did it after.
Well, I would be free either Thursday or Monday. Monday at 5:30 is the monthly Black Voices Project meeting. And so that's me, Charlie, and Matt will all are tied up with that, but we could do Monday at 4. If that, or any time before that, or like I said, Thursday works for me, but Janet, Charlie, and the rest of the team, what do you guys think?
So we're talking, sorry, am I mute or no? Are we talking Thursday the 5th? Yeah, I'm in New Mexico. I won't be able to attend, but I could do Monday the 9th at 4.
Yeah, I could do the 9th too.
So if that works for you, for your side, Chase, your team, and Matt, if that works for you, let's move the meeting that's scheduled for August 3rd at 4 to August 9th at 4. And then we will plan on just getting a report of the engagement sessions. I don't know if we'll be by Zoom. I think our Zoom abilities currently expire July 25th.
Yes. Yeah, so it'll be in person. I don't know that we are working to do a hybrid option, but that's going to take some time to get the boardroom equipped to do that. And so I'll be sharing that a little bit more next Tuesday, where we're at with that piece, but most likely it'll be, I would just plan on in person, Lisa.
Anything else?
Good luck tonight, guys.
Thanks. We're looking forward to it. Kristen said we already have over 150 responses just on the general link
Wow.
on the
Wow,
website.
whoa.
So that's a good start. So, I think that means that no matter if people are coming to the actual sessions or not, that people are going to give us feedback over the next month. So, but hopefully that'll go well.
So the login, it's the same password or login information for board members, community members. It's all just one access point. Is that right, Chase?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's
I was just
and then
sure.
we were joking because I set it up because we need the chat box and rather than Kim setting it up how she does. So, if we get a huge crowd and we have over 1,000 people, I'm going to run out of seats. So I don't know what we're going to do. So that would be a good problem to have, we decided.
Yeah, I would wager we probably won't get 1,000 people joining tonight, but
No,
you never know.
I told Kristen that if we had 50, I would be very happy.
And we reserved an hour and a half, right? I can't imagine it's going to go that long.
We did a dry run today
Did you?
with Tom to kind of talk through some of that, and he's really, I think he'll do a good job of keeping us on track. But I agree, like if the conversation's just not there, he knows to kind of not let it just drag on.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I'll say, Chase, Jason this morning was like, is there some big school board thing happening tonight at 5? Because it seems important. I've gotten a lot of communication about it. So like, for those of you that don't know Jason, like, that means it's really out there that he's like finally heard.
It's been well communicated. Yeah.
He's
That's
kind of
all.
off in his own world usually, but if it's on his radar, I bet it's on more than 50 people's radar.
That's all Kristen. So that's all Kristen.
All right, well, let's maybe get a motion to end this meeting and then we can have a little bit of a break before you guys roll into your community engagement session.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? See you guys
Aye.
later.
Thanks,
Thank
folks.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.